The Milwaukee Brewers have made a surprising move after they have just announced their NLCS roster going into today's game against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and there are fans up in arms about what moves were made and in what scenario, but we're going to be breaking it all down here in this video, going over the reasons for these specific moves, as well as what the plan on the pitching is, as it has just been announced. We're going to be breaking it all down, like I said, here in this video. Before we do jump into it, though, ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you one favor, and that's if you haven't already, be sure to hit the sub button. Join me here on the channel. We're posting daily videos regarding your Milwaukee Brewers here, and I want to make sure you're getting all the latest updates throughout the postseason and into this NLCS. Like I said, we're going to have daily videos, so be sure to hit the sub button and join me here. But let's get straight into this, because as of a few moments ago, the Milwaukee Brewers have released their NLCS roster. And diving into this, it's a very similar look to what we had seen with a few big changes, which a lot of Brewers fans are not very happy with. And it does cause a bit of confusion surrounding the move, especially with who they did take out of the lineup. But in response to that move, it makes sense when we're taking a look at it. We're going to do that here in a moment. But the infielders, the same thing. Going over Jake Bauers, Caleb Durbin, Andrew Monasterio, Joey Ortiz, Bryce Turang, and Andrew Vaughn. The outfielders, the exact same. Catchers, the exact same. And on the pitching side of things, one major change is that they have added Tobias Myers into this lineup and taken out Nick Mears. Now, Nick Mears, in his 3 appearances in the NLDS, was very good. He was very, very solid. But as we know now, the NLCS adds 2 more games to this series at its maximum, now being a 7-game series. And with the Brewers still being a bit injured on the pitching side of things, namely with Brandon Woodruff, they're looking to get as much length as they can out of the bullpen. And that is one thing that Tobias Myers brings to this team. So going over how this really has got altered from the NLDS to this and now NLCS here tonight, we know the Brewers are going to be looking at every option for pitching, and that's one thing that they have not been shy about. We know that when we see Nick Mears into a lineup here, as I mentioned, was very, very good here throughout not just this season, but also the postseason as well. Been very consistent. And as his percentiles, he's also still very, very good. Now, one thing about Nick Mears is that he does only throw 3 pitches, a fastball, a slider, and a changeup. When kind of in comparison to Tobias Myers throws 6 pitches, a handful of ones, and can also go a little bit longer. His percentiles may not be the best necessarily for when it comes to, your expected batting average, your expected ERA and whatnot. But when it does come down to what matters most, and that is making sure your best pitchers are available a lot more than what it would be if you have, just say, Nick Mears coming in here for 1 inning. You can get Tobias Myers coming in for a couple at a time and really be able to hold down a bullpen or even, if need be, an opener for this team when you're looking at a guy, let's just say, Jose Quintana, Freddy Peralta, or Quinn Priester going tomorrow, the day after, whatnot. So it is all, like I said, about what's happening right now on this side of things for the pitching. They're all making sure that when we do take a look at it and when everything is really in comparison, they're going to have their best options available, and that's the big thing that Pat Murphy, Matt Arnold have both spoken out about. Now, going into it as well, like I mentioned, they've spoken out about this. Jose Quintana said, I expect to be a starter. I don't know the plan yet, but I expect that whatever role they think they want to use me, I'm going to be available, but I expect to be back starting. So this should give a little bit of an insight as to what the plan is for not just this first game, perhaps if Jose Quintana is the opener here today, but also how they're going about the rotation over the first 4 games of this series. And we know that eventually we're going to see Freddy Peralta. That is likely going to be game 2, and we're going to jump into the probable pitchers here right now, as the Brewers have announced nothing. We know Blake Snell is going for the Dodgers here today, but as of right now, we still don't know who is going to be this starter or opener for game 1 here against this Dodgers team. But going into it and having all of this kind of plans about, Matt Arnold did say more about length, and Pat Murphy is scheduled to talk air in a little bit. I don't know the exact time, but certainly before the game here this afternoon. And with Matt Arnold kind of going out about saying, we're looking at length, we're making sure that we can have pitchers go as long as possible, rather than, burning out all your arms going the same way we have. And as we know, the Brewers love to go 1 inning per reliever when it does come down to their relievers that are not long, lengthy pitchers and whatnot. It gives them the option to make sure that they can have those arms ready a lot more than what we would have seen had it be the regular season. So this is something to certainly take in mind now, especially with the length side of things. And once again, that's why Tobias Myers is here in this one. Another pitcher you don't see here is DL Hall. I thought he would have been an option to jump into this lineup here. going into the NLCS. But as we go down the list, of course, Grant Anderson, Aaron Ashby, Robert Gasser, still making this even after a bit of a slow start for him in his first postseason appearance this season. Jared Koenig, Trevor McGill, Jacob Mizorowski, Tobias Myers, Chad Patrick, Freddy Peralta, Quinn Priester, Jose Quintana, and Abner Uribe. I would also expect that Jacob Mizorowski does start a game perhaps, or open a game at some capacity for this Brewers team. That is something that, as of right now, I think that we can fairly say. We've seen Pat Murphy say that is on the table, and having that as an option is a must. We saw how good he was in his series, his 2 series, I guess we should say, of 3 to 4 innings in the NLDS. And if he can translate that here as well, it's going to be a phenomenal sign going into this. Now, as we do look at the probable pitchers, like I mentioned, you have the game 1 and 2 starters for the Dodgers in Blake Snell and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. But for today's game, still to be determined. Games 3 and 4 in LA, still to be determined. The only one that they actually seemingly know is Freddy Peralta. And I can't recall if that was announced for Game 2 or not, but that makes all the sense in the world. So I would say it's everything but confirmed if it hasn't been announced at this point. But you're going up against a lefty, then a righty. The lineup is going to be something that we're still having to see. I think it'll resemble what we saw in the NLDS, hopefully what we saw in the first 2 games there, where, we went up right away, had a very, very good outing from both of these lineups. But as of right now, the pitching is still kind of the biggest what-if factor or question marks for this Brewers team heading into it. And as we know, and this is something I mentioned before, when you're coming out with this and seeing the stats of the head-to-head this season, the Brewers won all 6 games, and pretty handedly at that. But I do not care what this says right now. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, the postseason is a completely different game. The pitchers, the hitters, everybody channels a different level, and especially a team like the Dodgers, who has a lot of clutch players, a lot of players who've been there before, a lot of players who've won a World Series before. Comparing that to a Brewers lineup, I'll say it, the Dodgers do have the advantage here. Even though, we see the Brewers have the best record in the MLB, and of course, the regular season stats show that they dominate the Dodgers, it is a completely different game. So, it's definitely good to see that they have this kind of momentum heading into it, and hopefully this kind of gets to the Dodgers, but that's the thing. It won't. It won't get to these players that have been here before who have probably faced this exact same scenario. So that's why this pitching matchup is going to be so important. These pitching decisions are going to be so important because when it comes down to it and having these options here coming into how everything's going to be schemed out, it is going to be something that is going to probably be going by day. And, it's a weird way of putting it, especially when you're in the postseason. But if you need Freddy Peralta to start and then come out of the pen, you're going to see it. And that's one thing that I think everybody on this team has been ready for, is locked up for, and ready to go with. Now, we do have also this from Chris Hook, the pitching coach here for the Brewers, because we're basically going in with 3 starters. Brewers pitching coach Chris Hook said, referencing Priester, Freddy Peralta, and Jose Quintana, we have to be able to cover things if we go south, if we have to make a right turn. Like I've said before, this is just the norm for us. I don't think it's anything like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? We do it every day, and we find a way. So it does seem like at right now, the Brewers do have those 3 starters. So I will take a gamble, maybe say it will be Jose Quintana here today, Freddy Peralta, then Quentin Priester, maybe Miz. There's options here that we're seeing for a Game 3, but as of right now, and the way that things are really leading up to be, and from what we've seen as the opening possibilities for a Game 1, it would either be Quinn Priester, Jose Quintana, Game 2, Freddy Peralta, Game 3, the other pitcher who didn't go for Game 1, and maybe Miz in the mix there as well. So I think this is something that we need to take a look at here, especially going game by game. Like I mentioned, I think this game will tell us exactly what we need to know going into Game 2 and 3 about what the lineup should be, who the starter should be. So, nothing right now is set in stone. There's a lot of moving parts that are still going to be going throughout the game, throughout this series, throughout the first couple of games. And as of right now, we're only a couple hours away from Game 1. This is going to be a big one. We need to see how this turns out for Game 2 and Game 3. But ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to cover. Like I said, daily videos coming out here for the Brewers. We're going to get the lineup here soon. We don't have that. We have the roster right now. But with this lineup, there's going to come a lot of interesting things. And how we attack Blake Snell here tonight will be a big telltale sign for what we're going to see going forward. So that's all I got here in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button. Let me know what you think about the roster here down below. I'll pull it up once again just before finishing this video off here. But as we know, Nick Mears coming out, Tobias Myers coming in. The only move that was made, really. So let me know what you think about that. But like I said, that's all I got here in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out, though. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.